Hey, yeah. This is the kitty cat camera being operated from kitty cat level. And, yeah, trimming a little ganja here. It's a lovely plant. It's a sacred plant. It's a healing plant. And until just a couple years ago, it was illegal as hell. Why was it illegal? Well, that's a funny story. You see, there was once a musical style called jazz. And jazz was beautiful music. It was the music of a united proletariat. It was the music of black people, white people, Hispanic people, Jewish people, Slavonic people, Asian people, Native people. It was a music anybody could be a part of, and it drew from all kinds of traditions. And it sang about what it meant to be an ordinary person. Specifically an ordinary person who belonged to one of these minorities. What it meant to be black in America, what it meant to be Irish in the British colonies, what it meant to be native pretty much anywhere at the time. What it meant to be a Chinese person in California or Vancouver. Jazz music spoke to all of this, and of course it also spoke to the shared experience of Jews living under Christianity and the persecution that they endured and the ghettos that they lived in, and the ghettos that black people in America were herded into, and the barrios of America, and the reservations of the Canadian North, and the unfair renting conditions imposed upon the Irish and upon the Welsh. Let's not forget the Welsh. Because those people weren't white back then. They weren't. And so they found common cause in jazz. They also found common cause in cannabis. And that's when the precious white society got scared, because cannabis was causing them to really, really reconsider some of the ideas that they had been fed all their lives. They were starting to ask questions, and it scared them. And the one thing that stood out for them the most wasn't even the socialism. It wasn't even the idea of everybody being equal, the idea that we should all be treated fairly. Now, the thing that scared the preachers and the politicians of white Anglo-Saxon Protestant society the most was the threat of interracial sex. Oh, that terrified them. And so to get rid of that danger, that awful danger, they abolished cannabis. They made it illegal. Thinking that by doing this, they could get rid of jazz music and interracial sex and socialism and the cry for justice. And of course, it didn't really work. It just drove everybody underground. And of course, from jazz came early rock and roll with its very similar sensibilities, taking the blues and making it a universal. Yeah. And that's something to think about. So much of our social progress came from musicians, artists, creative people. It didn't come from politicians. It didn't come from government. It came from you and me. And that's where all social progress comes from. And it just requires music, art, love, and a little bit of ganja. And with all those things, you can have a revolution. And a revolution doesn't need guns and bombs. It just needs enough people standing together that they can't arrest all of us at once. And they can't pick us off separately. Do that, and we've won. And again, ganja and jazz and interracial sex. There you go.